everybody, welcome back to Waffles RC. Today we're getting back on the Buggy build. Just gonna keep plugging away at it. Still don't have parts for it, don't have a lot of money for it, but there's always something to do, and I have lots of scrap metal. So we are just gonna keep going, try and finish this thing off, make it look a little bit nicer if possible, and then see where the day takes us. Okay, so what I've done so far is I did a filler panel in there and in there, and I did these ones here in the back just to kind of finish off all the skins that are going to make this thing look more like a real buggy. I also added these bars in here because, well, I could, and there was a gap there, so why not add more bars? So I also added this bar in here, and that would be for my fuel cell. So there's normally screws in it. I have it taken apart right now just so I can, mount it. That's what that crossbar was for. I have some other stuff coming, but I thought a fuel cell up there would look kind of good. And it does. And the detail on this thing is absolutely incredible. So I got this fuel cell right here off of Etsy from a shop called ASA3 Scale Products. I'll put it right here so that you guys can go onto Etsy and check out his store. He's got a good number of products, but the detail, I mean, this is just a fuel cell, and the detail on it, like all the bolts are painted, the fuel lines have little red tips on them. Like, there's some good attention to detail on this. So if you guys want, go and check it out. I highly suggest it. He was very prompt on his shipping. There was a shipping delay, and he messaged me to let me know instead of like other companies, just it'll get there when it gets there. Very good seller. I really like his products, so you guys go and check it out, and I think you'll be very happy with the products that he has as well. Next on the list would be, let's get the transmission drilled and mounted, because I do have the transmission for it. It's about the only other part I have for this thing. So we'll get that mounted in there. And there is our transmission. So I didn't do the forward mount like I normally do. So it's an axial 3-gear style, but this one is a 2-speed with dig because, well, it's a buggy. So got to make it, function like a buggy. I'm going to have some front dig on this thing. So now what I'm going to do is time-lapse putting the axles on this thing and see what it looks like now with all the panels and the fuel cell and all that stuff on here. And then I can take a measurement for drive lines and order those when I get paid. There we are. Got everything bolted up. Looks really good with all these panels on now. Definitely looks more complete. Now, essentially the next step is to, well, take it apart again so that I can take all these panels off. Well, not that one, but take all the panels off and paint this whole thing. But I'm still waiting on one more accessory that I'll need to weld brackets for that. Then once that's here, get that all done, and then I can start painting this thing. So the color scheme I plan on going on this one is all the metal panels will be black, and then since money's tight and I think it's going to look good, remember the Forerunner build, I bought spray paint, but it was not the right spray paint. But now we have the right spray paint. The reason why I'm using this, like I said, money's tight. This is what I have. And I don't plan on using it on anything else. So the cage will be this color. Panels will be black. Shocks will be red because that's what I have. Sometimes you got to go with what you have. Next thing to do, now that is the reason why I put this all together, is to measure for drivelines. Because when I do get money, I'm going to need drivelines. I'll flip it over and I'll show you how I measure for drivelines for a custom build like this. So the first thing you'll do, grab yourself a tape measure. And the measurements that you want to take, which I need something to write on. Grab your tape measure. You're going to measure from where the driveline will match up on the transmission to where it matches up on the drive shaft. But there's two measurements you need to take. First one, fully compressed. It doesn't have to be 100% accurate, just essentially close enough. We'll call that 6 inches. And then the next one you want to take on the same one is with the suspension at full extension. About 6 1/4. So that actually stays pretty well within the same range. Do the same thing for the front, which I can't really get to it, so we are going to guess 4 3/4 under full compression, about 5 inches. So the reason for the two measurements is as the suspension travels, differential is going to be getting further and closer away. This one doesn't travel very much. It's the way that I did the control arms. I would say it's exactly what I knew I was doing. It was total guesswork. So, like all my other ones up here, you have to take the measurement from compression and full extension, because depending on your geometry of your arms, the axle will move forward and backwards in relation to where it is. So when you go online and try to find drive shafts, you want your measurements to be in that range. The rear on this one is 6 inches on compression, 6 1/4 on extension. I have a 1/4 inch of forward backward movement while this thing is traveling up and down. So I'm also doing the measurements in American units because that's what we have here. But all these drive shafts are measured in millimeters. So go on to the Googles and do inches to millimeter conversion, and that will give you the millimeters of your two measurements. And then you go and look online and you want to make sure that your measurements are within the measurements of the driveline that you are getting. As everybody knows, I get drivelines off of Amazon. I have found through extensive studies, don't go with the cheapest, but I also refuse to pay super high prices for really good ones. Now, if your budget allows for that, rock it. Get the best ones that you can. I personally have found really good luck with about the medium price range. If you stick in the medium price range, you're going to get some good quality drive shafts. And they're all metal. If you abuse them as much as I do, yeah, they're going to come apart. They're going to wear out. Different angles, stuff like that, it wears them out prematurely. But that's why you stick with the medium price range. So when you do break one, it doesn't hurt so bad to go get another one. That is how I do measurements for drivelines on all of my RCs. So I realized it would be better to have a visual representation of what I was talking about, the axle moving forward and backwards, with using another RC that has drivelines. I still absolutely love that body. On this one, as you can see, at full extension, which is where it's at right now, I can't go any higher, you can see just a little bit of a gap on that driveline. Now, I will admit these drivelines are a little too long for this RC, but they were what I had. But if you watch right here, as the axle goes down through its travel, that gap closes up. So that's why you have to take your two measurements. You want to make sure that that driveline isn't going to either fall off or hit right up against this thing All right, well, since I'm waiting on parts, just one last part and then, you know, the expensive stuff to make it drive. I have a receiver for it. I have no motor, no drive lines, but I just measured for them. And I'm waiting for one more accessory piece, possibly more. We'll see. Since I'm waiting on that last piece, I don't want to go through and final weld the whole cage until everything is done. And then I also have to grind the welds, try to make it look a little bit better. There's a few welds that are not perfect, but I don't mind. Paint will cover everything. To give you guys a fuller video, if that's a word, Mud Truck there has a broken rear axle shaft. So let's take that apart and see if we can make one. This thing is so big it's hard to get it in the shot, or at least the whole thing. So the issue that this is having is if you lift this wheel up, it just spins. Whereas the other ones, they all spin together. That has a broken axle shaft, so let's take it apart, see what's wrong, see if we can make something. Oh, and I get a chance to upgrade the wheel nuts on this thing too. Because I've had this thing built for over a year now, and that was before I discovered proper wheel nuts. So take that off. Now I get to be real cool and use my little jack stand. And they are adjustable. Yes, I'm weird, but tell me that's not cool. I mean, it's doing exactly what I want it to. So I can tell you right now, I know exactly what the problem is. The screws fell out of it. Okay, I don't know where that left off, but jack stands are fun. But I figured out why this axle shaft is broken. It's not broken. The screws fell out. So, you know how in every video when I build these things, I always say make sure you Loctite and grease everything on the axles? Yeah, you should still double check everything just to make sure that the bolts are still there, not just run it and run it and run it and hope everything is fine. So let me put some screws in this real quick and we'll be back on the road. Have you ever washed your car or an RC and immediately wish you hadn't? To start, I did maintenance on it. I just went over nut and bolt, checked everything. It's a good thing I did. But I have crashed this thing so many times that the top was covered with mud. But now you can see where all the paint has cracked and doesn't look very good. But this is the price you pay for when you do spray paint like this on a Lexan body. It flexes a lot. Well, spray paint doesn't flex. So that looks like that now. And I wish I wouldn't have cleaned it, but it was bugging me. But now it's clean and I see all the imperfections. So speaking of paint jobs that don't look so hot anymore, this one has definitely seen better days. But once again, I use all my RCs and they crash and I didn't use the right paint. There's another piece right there. Lexan paint is very expensive, at least in the, spray can. So I used spray paint. So you might be asking yourself, am I going to use Lexan paint to fix this and make it look better? Is it perfect? No, but can you tell from there that it's not perfect? Same with that one. I just repainted that one. The whole front was all messed up because somebody threw it. Not you guys, me. Resprayed that one black, resprayed that one white. Once again, from here, can you tell that they don't look very good? No, because this is about how far you're going to be away from them anyhow. Doesn't entirely matter. And regular spray paint is still cheaper than acrylic spray paint, and I get more of it rather than the small bottle. That's my logic. All of them are spray painted except for the hauler. that was custom painted. Stay. Speaking of the hauler, let me get some stuff off of that real quick. As you can see, I took one of the wheels off of the hauler, and it is right here. So I'm going to take this apart with 4 bolts back here to get the foams out from inside of this. So here is the wheel and tire disassembled. As you can see, I tried using a pool noodle to make this a little bit stiffer, so that way when driving along, as I noticed when hauling stuff, tires got really flat. Now I've seen that on RC Sparks that people told him use a pool noodle. I tried that and it did not work. Could have had something to do with my cutting, possibly, but also the diameter of the pool noodle that I had sitting in my garage was not big enough for the tire. So I have something else. This is one of those styrofoam back roller things that you lay on the ground, then you roll your body across it. It is quite stiff, which is what I need for the hauler because it carries a lot of weight and I don't want squishy tires, because at the event that I took it to, it just looked like it had flat tires all the time. I tried this, didn't work, so let's cut that apart and see if I can make something out of that. Alright, so as you can see, I have the hauler out, the front tires off, got that. So this is what was in it before. This is exactly how I had it. The stock foams that came with it, plus the pool noodle, and it was still quite squishy, as you can see by this one, because that carries a lot of weight, because all my stuff is heavy. I mean, just itself is heavy. So I've already tried it, and now it looks like I'm not pushing on it, but I am. So trust me on that one. So that can handle much more weight. How long it's going to last, I have no idea. I also am not good at cutting circles, apparently. Inside was easy, outside very hard. Just a heads up also with this stuff, it breaks. So trying to get it inside the tire, it broke. I lost a chunk, had to cut some more out, and yeah, I just did weird stuff, but made it work. Luckily, I have 9 more opportunities to learn how to cut a circle. So I know this video is all over the place, because it is. Started with the crawler, then we painted. Now I'm doing tire inserts. The reason why I'm doing all this is because I want to put a video out for you guys. And this is the reality of an RC person. You don't always have money to buy a bunch of new parts, and as cheaply as I try to keep these and try to make these, the reality is it's still expensive, and not a big YouTuber. I'm not making a lot of money. None of these parts are sponsored. That Etsy shop that I told you to go to, I talked with him and just told him that I liked his stuff. I want to promote products that are good, and I'm not getting sponsored. I didn't ask anything for it. He does really good work for a very good price. When you don't have a good paycheck because work was slow, then this is what you got to do. Luckily for me, I have a few RCs that I've neglected on maintenance. I've been wanting to do this to the tires to this thing ever since the event 2.5 months ago. I've had this thing sitting in my car for 2 months, but I continue to build more and build more and build more. So in essence, it's a good thing that I have this time to do this, because I have the parts, so I might as well just keep going. I'm going to keep attempting to make circles, and I'll let you know how these look after I get 9 more of these done. Whose idea was it to do a dually 6x6? This is taking quite long because I can't cut circles, but got the front wheels and tires are done, as you can see, not flatting out like they normally were. I got these 2 done, only have 6 more to go. So all I've been doing is I did a hole saw for the middle, and then was just tracing the outside, trying to make as good of a circle as I could possibly make. To cut this, because of how thick it was, I used a Sawzall, and that helped me get straighter cuts than trying to do it all with this. I know this episode was very weird, all over the place. Like I said earlier, just got to do what you got to do. Hopefully next week we will have some stuff for the crawler so we can hopefully put it all together or final weld it and paint it, and then worry about a motor and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. This YouTube stuff is hard when you don't have any money. I've been trying to think of ways of being able to continue building stuff, either building custom RCs for people or starting a Patreon. Don't know exactly how that works. I'm a little awkward taking money from people just to build RCs for myself. It doesn't seem right. I know that there's lots of other YouTubers and people out there that do Patreon to have people pay for their stuff, but it's just a little weird to me. So let me know what you guys think. If you've made it this far and you're the ones that I'm really concerned about asking. Let me know what you guys think, what we should do next. I do have one more custom, two more custom builds. One is the 79 series that you've seen before. The other one is this crazy idea that I have in my head, hoping that it works out. It's going to be a lot of metal work that I haven't tried before, and I don't really have a lot of tools for it, so it's going to be a bit experimental, just like this thing was. So you guys all seem to really like this. It's somewhat along the lines of this. It's not going to be as crazy as this, but the vehicle itself, that's going to be the crazy thing. I will keep making plans and keep trying to figure out what to do to keep bringing you guys content, because I enjoy building these things. I enjoy interacting with you guys through the comments. I really do enjoy all of this, and as you can see, I really enjoy it all. So yeah, from Waffles RC, thank you very much. Hope you guys all have a good 4th of July, if you celebrate it. If not, happy Trader's Day. My neighbor will understand that reference. Thank you all very much, and we will see you on the next one.